I don't want to set the world on fire. In my heart I have but one desire, and that one is you.
Good evening. I am your host of tonight's program, vis-a-vis El Hazard. This is the Electric Eye Radio Show. Tonight's installment is a second episode entitled The Black-Eyed Children. Well, here we are again, together, at last. It's been about a week since the last show. This is the second episode of the Electric Eye Radio Show. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to you about the Black-Eyed Kids and what they could be, some experiences that people have had with them, and maybe what it is that they want. Before we get started on that, I have a little bit of an update on the Bizarre Compendium. If you haven't heard the first episode or the pilot episode of the Electric Eye Radio Show, the Bizarre Anthology is a series of books that I'm creating that are all based around true crime, occultism, and parapsychology. The first installment of this book is going to be released in the spring of 2017. But right now I'm working on a Bizarre Compendium, which is a small piece of the larger body of work. So what I've decided to do with this is, before I release a new addition to the Bizarre Anthology, I'm going to release what I'm going to call a Bizarre Compendium. And in the Bizarre Compendium, there's going to be the same three topics: true crime, occultism, and parapsychology. But whichever one I choose to highlight is going to have a more detailed account of either a true crime case, a concept, a murder, an idea, or something like that. The first Bizarre Compendium should be released by Halloween, and that will be entitled The Bizarre Compendium Volume A, I Am No One. And in this Bizarre Compendium we're going to focus on the true crime category, and we're going to talk a lot about Charles Manson and all of the insanity that's involved with all of that. There's really been so much written about Charles Manson that it was kind of hard for me to find anything that I could really pump out that wouldn't just be regurgitated ideas from the books Helter Skelter, or some of the other really good books that have been written about Charles Manson, the Manson family, the trial, the Tate LaBianca murders, and everything else. So what I decided to do was focus more on a lot of the bizarre conspiracy and paranoia and some of the problems with the trial, and how people view Manson and what's going on with those guys today. I mean, the Manson family is still active, it appears, and some of the members are still out there doing whatever it is that they may be doing. Well, that's enough of that talk. We'll be seeing that really soon, and some other projects that are related to that. But let's go ahead and get started with tonight's show, The Black-Eyed Children. Alright, what are some things that we can guess that we may know about the Black-Eyed Children? Okay, the first one being very obvious. They're children who have pitch black eyes. The entire sclera is black. In pretty much all of the reported cases, the kids repeatedly ask to be let inside, and they grow more and more hostile throughout the encounter, to the point where at first they're pleading, and then at the end they're basically demanding to be let in. By many accounts, it always seems to be at least two children, and they're just very strange. They have a very unnatural, alien basically terrifying dispositions, and this kind of aura of fear, and that seems to wake up some type of primordial type of fight or flight response in most people. And in some cases, people have even been frozen in terror until a certain point where they could break free, or the encounters have led to them fleeing the area, trying to contact police or something like that in order to get somebody to look into whatever it is that may be going on. So from a paranormal standpoint, a paranormal explanation could be is due to the lack of physical evidence, few paranormal researchers have claimed to believe this story 100%. However, there are many who think the black-eyed kid legend has eerie similarities with a variety of traditional paranormal classifications. So, people consider the black-eyed children to be possible vampires. So vampires traditionally have black eyes, especially directly prior to a feeding, according to some lore. Vampires also traditionally asked to be let in, and a very consistent characteristic of the black-eyed kids. So it's not really, if you're going to go out on a limb and you're going to believe in black-eyed kids and you're going to try to believe in vampires, then you're going to feel like, hey, this is definitely a similarity in the cases, and it is something that is consistent with basically every encounter that I've seen or heard of or researched, is that they have to be let in. So it's also considered that they could be demons. I mean, why not? Why not make them demons? All of the people who have a reported experience of BEKs or black-eyed kids recount feeling sheer terror in their presence. Irrational terror that would normally not come about due to merely being approached by children. So fair enough. I mean, apparently these little bastards are terrifying. I mean, I have had quite a few very strange, very high strange, terrifying experiences in my life, revolving around very real life experiences and paranormal experiences. A lot of the time it seems like the ones that can be explained as per the real life occurrences are so much more terrifying because you do understand them. But in my mind, the paranormal experiences that I've had are more of a mystery, and I don't know. Even though some of the things that I've experienced while having these incidents are terrifying, I'm not sure if it's terrifying because it's actually terrifying, or I just don't understand what's going on or why it happened. So, in a lot of ways, it's not necessarily fear as much as it is confusion. Now, I have never, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure I would recognize this. I've never encountered the black-eyed children, but if I did, I'm pretty sure that they'd end up really being black-eyed kids, if you know what I'm saying. But another explanation could be spirits, some type of angry, vengeful, terrifying little spirits. Perhaps the BEKs are the ghosts of deceased children, spirits who have lost their way. They don't know they're dead and are thus asking for help, but they're no longer human and thus appear strange, both in appearance and demeanor. So fair enough. I mean, seeing a ghost, seeing a spirit, a lot of times people may say that they do seem very disjointed, confused, lost, afraid. All of those things are tied to these concepts. But one thing that we can't overlook at all is that it could just be a complete hoax. I mean, all it would really take for a couple of kids to keep this myth going is buying some black contact lenses and having the disposition to not crack up laughing during the ruse. I mean, fair enough. I've pulled some pretty good pranks in my life, but the hoax explanation would appear to be the most likely one for people not inclined to believe in the paranormal. However, if this is a copycat hoax, a prank perpetuated by bored teens on a Friday night, it seems strange that there is not one reported incidence of BEK breaking character and smiling and laughing. Even the teen vampire heartthrobs in Twilight series aren't that good at character acting. So, The next theory is they could be a cult. A cult. A cult. With all the buck wild cults out there, it would not surprise us at all if there was one that involved devious kids. In some ways, this is just as terrifying as a demon explanation and far more likely. There are hundreds of thousands of runaway children, and they often get swept up into gangs and illegal activity. What if it goes further than this? What if there's a deranged serial killer out there who hypnotizes children, inducing them into his or her family, inducting them into his or her family, and then unleashing them upon the public? One would argue, and in fact many are, that the government does this on a daily basis. I think it's safe to say that old Uncle Sam probably has some creepy secrets laying around. Now, the black-eyed children range in quite a bit. There's quite a bit of stories related to the black-eyed children. A lot of first-hand accounts, and even some people that can corroborate this. But over the last few years, a collection of strange stories about black-eyed kids have been bouncing around on the internet via paranormal forums and supernatural chat rooms. These stories have a single originating point, a creepy experience reported by journalist Steve Bethel on January 16th, 1998. Brian claims he was approached in his car by two children whose eyes were all black, meaning there was no white in their corneas. These children insisted Brian let them into his parked car, claiming they needed a ride to a telephone. Brian claims he was overcome with a feeling of sheer panic, as though he was being hunted by a sinister predator. The more fearful he became, the more insistent the kids became that he let them in. So Brian Bethel's story is multiplied, and it's been reported by dozens of others. There's a woman who lives alone who claims two kids knocked on her door at 11 p.m., demanding that she let them in to use her restroom. There's a soldier alone in a Marines barrack who found his courage under fire when two BEKs knocked at his door in the middle of the night. A lone camper who claims he spent all night huddled in his tent, terrified after two black-eyed children randomly appeared in the woods and insisted he let them inside his tent. Damn. That would be pretty terrifying. I mean, you're out in the middle of the woods, you're trying to have a good night, camping out, and the next thing you know, black-eyed kids. Pretty scary. Pretty scary indeed. We're going to go ahead and look into Brian Bethel's account of his black-eyed kids experience a little bit further. We're going to look at an article here on the Abilene Reporter. It's in reportnews.com. So Brian goes on to talk about the Travel Channel or the Destination American Channel show that he was on. They came to interview him. It's a travel program, at least in certain respects. Apparently a cameraman and an interviewer came to him that year and shot some footage of him and others in a rented home they use as a backdrop out and about in Abilene in a local coffee shop. So it's kind of interesting because you can see a lot of these shows. Even if the site is available, they'll go to another site. For instance, I was just watching, I think it was Paranormal Witness, and they were talking about the Fox Hollow Farm haunting and Herb Baumeister, and which is something else that I'm writing about. And I've been to the property, and the property that was on the, I don't believe that the property that was on the TV show was actually the property, because the garage apartment was a little bit different. So, of course, it's just all, movie magic. So here it goes. I'm going to go ahead and read this as if I were Brian Bethel. Near as I can figure, this happened in 1996. I've managed to pin down the date that far. I feel like it happened in the spring or summer, since I remember wearing a pair of shorts, but one of my great regrets is not recording the actual date of the event. After you hear the story, you'd think it would be something you'd never forget, but given enough time between, not the case. My memory, while good, isn't really that great. I had gone down to the former site of Camelot Communications, one of the area's original internet providers, to pay my bill. At the time, Camelot was located on North 1st Street, near the movie theater, in the shadow of what is now Chase, then Bank One. I was using the light of the